thank you and welcome to all of you who are interested in either HC Techstars program or Minnesota Cup's Life Science and Health IT division. We are good pals programs, and knowing that we're reaching out to and interested in supporting really similar audiences of entrepreneurs, albeit sometimes at different stages. We were excited to share our programs together and also give the opportunity to hear from a couple of our program alumni so that you can learn a little bit more about what it was like to participate in both programs and then ask questions of myself and Matt Miller. So I will say a super quick introduction. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jessica Berg. I run the Minnesota Cup competition that is based in Minnesota and designed to serve early stage founders and innovators within Minnesota. So we are place-based. You have to be a Minnesota-based company or innovator to participate. And we also, our application is industry agnostic, but we have 9 different divisions that when you apply, you self-select into just based on what you're doing and where you think you'd be the best fit for both our volunteer judges that evaluate you and the peer group that you want to be competing among. So I'll share a little bit more about our program as we keep moving forward, but Matt, I'd love to have you introduce yourself too.
Sure, thanks Jess. And thanks to the folks on the call and the people that will be viewing this via recording. My name is Matt Miller. I am the Managing Director of the UnitedHealthcare Accelerator powered by Techstars. And we're happy to be here today. We've done this a few times now where we've shared the stage with the Min Cup. Certainly good friends with these folks and kindred in terms of our mission in advancing technologies in all spaces, but we have a particular predisposition towards healthcare. We run a program that's focused on digital health innovation, particularly pre-seed and seed stage companies that are doing novel things in that space. I'll be able to share a little bit more about that in just a second. But for context, so the Min Cup, as Jess mentioned, is all about Minnesota, Minnesota, Minnesota. I would love it if our program were all about Minnesota. We are looking for local companies to take. We actually do a global search. So we don't geographically restrict the companies that we invest in that participate in our program. But we are particularly keen on looking in spaces that, for whatever reason, the venture community considers overlooked or underrepresented. And the Midwest is certainly one of those, and Minnesota being home for us. And then the greater Midwest is an area that we pay particular attention to when we are recruiting our next class of digital health companies. So excited to be here, excited to have your eyeballs and brains involved in this process, and I'll look forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Well, I know that both Matt and I, as well as Pete Nelson and my compatriot Jamie Bartlett for Minnesota Cup, can share a lot more tactical information or the specifics about what it means to apply, what we're looking for. But I would love to set the stage for a couple of our program alumni to share their experiences first. I think it may prompt some of your questions or just give you a better lens on what it's really like to participate than you would get from any of our the program leadership or from us. So if you wouldn't mind being put on the spot first, Angie, I'd love to sort of hear from you, and a couple of things to maybe start out with is just to let people know about Abilitech Medical, sort of share a little nugget about your company, and then just anything you think is maybe useful for somebody who's a prospective participant in MinCup to know about what the process is like and sort of how you participated over the years.
Sure. Thanks, Jess. I'm Angie Zabro-Conley. I'm the CEO of Abilitech Medical and founder. I founded Abilitech in 2016, and to solve a problem to help people with weak neuromuscular arms. So people who live with MS, muscular dystrophy, ALS, spinal cord injury, and future stroke rehab. It is a really significant opportunity. What I tell people is there's hundreds of thousands of people who live independently without use of their legs in a wheelchair. But if you can't use your arms, who feeds you? Who turns on the lights and opens doors and brushes your teeth? And you just really can't live independently. And our device, which is a powered orthotic, helps address that solution. We help people with activities of daily living. We have clinical studies here at the University of Minnesota and at Gillette Children's in muscular dystrophy, and are planning 5 different clinical studies over this next year here in Minnesota and in Texas. We're just FDA registered, so we're commercial right in the middle of COVID, but super excited to help and excited to get going. I'll give you a little background. Prior to, I worked at Medtronic as a senior product manager, but then I was recruited to be an executive director for a nonprofit that was commercializing a 3D printed exoskeleton made by Stratasys, another Minnesota company. And what I found was the opportunity was massive, and my inbox was filled with, can you help my sister, mother, brother with MS, ALS, spinal cord? And yet, we were focused on kids with orphan, really rare conditions and diseases, and it really didn't work as functionally or didn't scale. So what I did is, and thanks to the Minnesota Business Cup in 2016, I applied, became a semifinalist, and with the guidance of some early mentors, developed a pitch deck, a business plan, a video, all the tools I needed to start and raise money. And I was able to raise within the same month of being a semifinalist, and we were actually with Stemonics in that group, and I knew they were going to win because they were so much more advanced than we were. But I had to decide, did I want to compete or did I want to raise money? And so with the Minnesota Business Cup materials and the mentorship that I received there, I was able to found Abilitech and raise 2.3 million and get going. So we closed on all the money in January of 2017. And I've been after it ever since. I've raised a total of 12.3 million. We're in another capital raise right now to be able to fund the growth and commercialization of our existing device. So what I think I'll tell everybody who's considering applying is it took me 3 times. There was a year I didn't apply, but I every single time I learned so much, and I refined my business strategy, and my business plan and my pitch deck looked different, and I grew, and of course our business grew. But it was with this that I really owe. Without the structure of the Minnesota Business Cup, I'm not sure I would have founded Abilitech. I didn't set out to start a company. It wasn't my intention. My intention was to be a medical device expert and, in marketing and continue the work that I was doing. However, it really is we have a great ecosystem here, beginning with our fine institutions. Our hospital system is unlike many. We're so lucky. Houston is comparable, but we are very lucky as Minnesota have this. And then also the Minnesota Cup, and then the Medical Alley. We did win the Minnesota Cup in 2019. We were thrilled. We won the grand prize in the medical, the life science, and the women's division, and it was just quite an honor and really exciting momentum. We got a lot of nice press, a lot of good relationships, and then went on to win a Techni Award as well. So that's, I guess I just encourage everyone who wants to explore an idea to start, and that it will help you and mentor you along the way. I've had some really significant, awesome mentors. And one of them was Mike Nolan, who works at UnitedHealth Group. He was a standout. He was just a terrific. I've spoken at his classes in MBA and at St. Thomas as well. And I've had Robert Buffidi, who's head of 3M's medical division as well. So a lot of important, interesting people that want to see young entrepreneurs succeed. And so I'm really grateful to the Minnesota Cup, and I encourage you to give it a try. And if you don't succeed the first time, it's worth going back, because you're investing in yourself, and there is an ecosystem here to help you.
Thank you so much, Angie. That was awesome. And I know you can't stay for the whole time, so whenever you feel like you have to bounce to get to that meeting, just feel free to go. But really quick follow-up question before we hear from Tatiana. So you mentioned the mentorship you received, and the fact that you participated 3 different seasons. So something that people often have the perception from the Minnesota Cup is that they hear about you, they hear about the grand prize winner and other division winners the most in the press. So someone might see 2019 Abilitech, and they might be, earlier stage, or maybe where you were in 2016, and feel like, oh, I'm gonna have no chance. But just to put a finer point on what were sort of the biggest takeaways from those different seasons that you participated, because I know you were in a different place of your own evolution as a business every time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I love to compete. I love to win, but there's a lot of reasons to compete. And so it is to learn and get connected and the support and grow your business. And so I think I was a little, like, wow, how can we compete with Stemonics this first year? They have all these federal contracts and everything. And I think you do it for the interest of your business. And you do your best every day. It's like life. And there are going to be some people who compete the first year and may win. Typically, you're entering an ecosystem where you're going to learn, and it often takes more than one application. Most of the winners have, it's taken a couple times, is my understanding. So, you
Yeah.
keep at it, but you invest, you participate to grow yourself and your company.
Awesome. Okay, fine.
There were 1,800 different people that competed, I think, the year we won. So, 1,800 in 9 different divisions. When you go into those odds, you have to tell yourself, I'm going to get better. I'm going to win. What is winning? Winning isn't just it goes far beyond the prize. And it goes far beyond the money that you get. It's really the relationships that you build and the mentoring and coaching.
Cool. Thank you, Angie. So, but just, I don't think that you hyped yourself up quite enough at the end when you did go on to win the grand prize in 2019. How much prize money across those 3 different awards did you take home that year?
Oh, thanks. We got $105,000. So it was really phenomenal. Yeah. And a lot of, it really means a lot for different investors here in the investment community as well. It gets their attention. And so it was something to help, the bragging rights was great, is what I'll
Awesome.
say. But the money was awesome as well.
Cool. Thank you. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Tatiana, and whether Matt or Pete, if you have specific questions to tee things up, or Tatiana, if you just want to introduce yourself first.
I'll introduce myself first, and then
please do.
Matt can grill me like he has many a time. Yeah. Hi guys, my name is Tatiana. I am the co-founder and CEO of Coda Health. And unlike Angie, we actually have a very, very different founder story in that we had every intention of founding Coda. In fact, my team and I were actually recruited by the Texas Medical Center to address their biggest needs in healthcare, particularly in the geriatric space, into a program, a fellowship where we were basically given a pair of universal scrubs and a universal badge that got us into every hospital room, clinic, administrator's office, billing office in the entire medical center. And the goal of the fellowship, which is known as the Biodesign Fellowship, there's one in Stanford, there's one in Houston and a couple other places, is to spend 6 months in customer discovery and market analysis, and then identify the key issue, how you might be able to solve it, and spin out a company in a year. And my team and I, we're very passionate about the geriatrics and palliative space. We spent an enormous amount of time working with seniors and physicians. And one thing that struck us over and over again was just how often we'd speak to a 94-year-old lady on Monday who was telling us that all she really cared about was spending time with her family and her dog, and she didn't really want aggressive medical intervention. She lived a great life. And then on Thursday, we'd see her wheeled into the ER, cracked open, and had a very aggressive medical intervention. And it really struck us that people weren't getting the healthcare that matched their values or their quality of life preferences at the end of life. And quite frankly, people weren't getting in any sort of emergency situation, healthcare that match their values and quality of life preferences. And when we really dug into why, 80% of patients want to talk to their doctors about this, but doctors generally feel like they don't have the time, the tools, or the training to actually engage. And so we built CODA, which is a HIPAA compliant digital platform that helps patients and providers navigate difficult conversations in healthcare so that everyone can get on the same page and physicians can deliver care that is concordant with the patient's goals and wishes and desires. And the patient can actually explore what those are, right? So everyone is speaking the same language. And as patients navigate it, all of their responses are captured and used to create the necessary legal and medical documents they need to protect their care, which they can then access, share, update, and virtually notarize on our platform for free. The goal of which is to completely eliminate any barriers to proactive care planning for these populations, both behavioral and financial. And the reason we can do that is because with Medicare rolling out all these new regulations and performance metrics associated with proactive planning conversations, our customers, which are health systems and at-risk institutions, they're feeling the crunch, right? Their bottom lines are really at risk, having to meet these new performance metrics, integrate new solutions to do so in a low labor fashion. And, along the path, they're also realizing that delivering care that people actually want saves them an enormous amount of money. And so as we, actually, fun little fact. So today is our 1-year anniversary. We incorporated 1 year ago, which is really exciting. But yeah, so since incorporation, we've built out the HIPAA compliant platform, served many, many, many patients who otherwise wouldn't have had access to this, created clinical partnerships, had the absolute privilege of participating in the Techstars UHC Accelerator, which I gotta say is a very unique opportunity since despite all of these clinical connections that we had in the Texas Medical Center, it was absolutely downright impossible to get a hold of a payer, right, and get their perspective. It is like, they are tough cookies to reach. But at Techstars UHC, we got to talk to them every day. In fact, sometimes we're like, oh, sorry, we're gonna have to skip this meeting. We're a little overwhelmed, right? You just get unlimited, drinking from the fire hose access to an entire industry giant and a player in the healthcare community that you normally would not get a chance to speak to and figure out how their infrastructure works, their budgets work, how their operations work, like who makes the decisions, how they roll things out, what are the timelines. Like, that is gold. At least it was for us. And then on top of that, the stamp of approval was not that bad either. So yeah, that's CODA, and that was our experience over at Techstars. Anything you want to grill me with?
No,
Matt?
no grilling. Thank you for being here. You're a rock star. We're grateful for your support. Just a question to set the context, though. Why did you apply to the program?
Well, we applied to the program for 2 big reasons. One was, as I mentioned, to get access to payers, because for us, there is an immense alignment between patient interests and payer interests. And, with the transition to value-based care, at the end of the day, it is payers that are bearing the financial burden of unwanted care in this country, right? And not having that perspective in our business model and approach is just something that we couldn't move forward without. It's a stakeholder we needed input from. So that's one. And then 2, Techstars is famous, or perhaps infamous, for the speed of acceleration that you go through, and the community that it creates. So we wanted to go specifically into a Techstars program because we're first-time founders, and compared to other programs like YC, it's very structured, it's very educational, it's very intensive and intense. And so we were able to learn things that in a very fast and structured way from both the program and the other companies that were in our cohort in a very short amount of time, that are very difficult to go out and learn on your own or to seek from a simple mentor, right? You never know what you don't know. And in this way, it was, drinking from a fire hose. You, by the end of the program, you will know how to do it. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Advice for folks that are curious or are considering themselves as prospective applicants, what would you have to say to someone like that?
Well, the first one I would say is be a nice person. I don't think there's room for jerks in the industry at this point. There's enough deal flow for people to choose who you work with. And one thing that I will say is an honor is that the Techstars UHC program overall prioritizes good human beings. So I'm very grateful for that. That was a little bit of a pat on the back. That's not what I meant. I meant that you guys are good human beings and everyone I met there was a good human being. And then, the other prep point I would actually say is the thing that prepared us best was actually training for the Y Combinator interview, oddly enough. So we went through 2 weeks of prep. We did all of these questions where you had to answer everything in 30 seconds, where everyone got on the same page. We learned what all of those, like what people ask you in grilling situations. And we also learned that we didn't want to go to Y Combinator because of that, right? But it was that prep process that they've effectively published has been valuable to us in a number of different applications, because it turns out a lot of people ask the same questions, and learning how to answer those cogently and effectively is a skill that you won't miss.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jess, I'm going to kick it back to you. Do you want to tell us a bit more about the Min Cup in this particular division, and then I can talk a little bit more about this Accelerator program?
Yeah, for sure. And thank you, Tatiana. It's a lot to learn more about CODA. So I just want to share a few quick high-level things, and then my tactic is going to be to put a lot of links in the chat. So for those of you watching the recording, you already found the places where the information is on our website. So congratulations, you're not missing anything in the chat. But at the highest level, as I said at the top, Minnesota Cup is an industry agnostic, Minnesota specific competition for really early stage companies. We actually do not have a floor for how far along you have to or should be to apply and be competitive, but we do have a ceiling. So if you're earning, if this business or this concept is generating $1 million a year in revenue or more, we think that you're too big or too far along to participate. A big reason for that is not because we don't want to see those companies in Minnesota blow up and be as successful as possible, but we take a very community-led and accessibility-driven approach to what we offer. So we are here to find and connect and educate and offer seed capital to really, really promising Minnesota founders and startups who might not otherwise have the networks or backgrounds or just resources to launch a company or to view themselves as a high potential founder. We are based within the Carlson School of Management at the Home Center for Entrepreneurship at the U, but you do not have to have any affiliation with the University of Minnesota to apply. You don't have to be a student. In 2018, we had the broadest age range of participants or semifinalists that we've ever had. The youngest participant was 11 and the oldest was 81. So we really see that innovation is taking place across age, across lived experience, all across the state of Minnesota. And so we are geared toward offering those resources and support to everyone. And we give away hundreds of thousands of dollars in prize money every year and take no equity in exchange for that, all with the idea of making it easier and sort of trusting founders to know what they need help funding. So we offer, there's no strings attached. You can use the money on your business however you choose if you're lucky enough to win it. So this conversation is centered around our Life Science and Health IT division, one of our 9 divisions, because that aligns so well with the UHC Techstars program. But it really is open to anyone, and we are here to help. And applications are open now, and they close on Friday, April 16th at midnight. So there's still plenty of time to apply, and a lot of other help sessions, info sessions, office hours, tons of things that you can sign up for to get support as you're working on your application, or if you just want to know more. We're really here. We're very available and want to be supportive of you in your startup journey as however we can. So I'll maybe pause there, and also happy to hold time to answer questions if folks on the call have specific ones or are curious about any of the details of what we offer. I could spend the whole call talking about our program, so I'm going to try to avoid that, but I'll pause there and see if you have other stuff to add, Matt.
Jess, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And maybe a little too nuanced for our purposes here, but give me a sense of it. What is the application process actually like, and then the timeline associated with next steps for applicants?
Super lovely of you to ask that. So to break those apart a little bit, the application is fully online, and we ask a lot of questions of the founders, but the only thing that gets evaluated from your application are 3 text-based written responses where we ask you to describe your opportunity, plan, and progress. Part of the reason that is so simple and hopefully straightforward for people is that we're industry agnostic. So if you try to get too nuanced a niche around any one industry, it just becomes hard to be open to everybody the way that we are. So it's the exact same application you fill out no matter which division you're applying to. But we also, it can be deceptively challenging that when it really forces you to be thoughtful and concise and get your ideas on paper, and potentially or hopefully have somebody else read your application, give you feedback, make sure that the point you're hoping to get across you really are. So it is a very simple application, and we also keep it simple in that way. Just recognizing that the accessibility or the comfort level with a lot of different people in applying to programs like this is low. These types of programs and these types of opportunities are not often very accessible, especially for people who don't have the luxury or the privilege to be coming from an MBA program or having networks or exposure to business jargon and the investment community. So we're really trying to be a bridge for that, where you can apply to our program without knowing any of those things and pick up that knowledge and sort of build your confidence in yourself as you participate. So I could say more about the application, but it is free, online, and focused on opportunity, plan, and progress. And then our timeline it's a great question because it is different than how Techstars operates, in that we have a longer competition timeline, but fewer required events or things that you have to participate in. It's a lot more choose your own adventure so our applications close on April 15th, and we notify people who move on or sort of are accepted into one of our 9 divisions at the end of May. And then you have the access and the opportunity to participate in a ton of Minnesota Cup education and programming, networking, and to work with 1 to 2 really phenomenal mentors, basically from that end of May point until the end of August. So it's multiple months, but it is not full-time and it's not very intensive. You do have work to do. It is not a small amount of work, but we design it understanding that most of the people who are participating are not even necessarily working on their company full-time yet and want to make space for people to have day jobs or families that they care for. So it's lower requirements, but a longer process. So we actually have our final award ceremony scheduled in 2021 for the end of September. It's the first Monday of Twin Cities Startup Week. So it's a long process, but we hope one that makes the learning we offer and the opportunities we offer available to more people. So Matt, can I flip the mic to you and ask some of the same questions of what does the Techstars UHC application look like? And even above and beyond the application, what are the kind of dream types of companies that you are looking for?
Yeah, I do dream about startups, so I will be able to answer that one literally. Our application process is nosy, quite nosy. In fact, we want to know, we want to invest in founders that are intimately familiar with the problem that they're solving, like why their solution is the right solution, why they are the right team to bring that solution to market. We want to get a sense of traction. Traction is not a requirement, though. What is more of a requirement is vision. So is it the right team? Are they actually tackling something that's a real problem? There's a lot of things that feel like problems in healthcare that aren't actually. So one of the ways that we vet that is from an opportunistic standpoint. If we can see changes in the policy, regulatory, and reimbursement environments, and then have innovation that can ride those waves, that's the right time to then find people that are doing innovative things in the space. We invest in technical teams, love teams that have built product previously, actually have a demonstrated history of execution. You don't need to be making money to be in our program. Every year we have a whole host of teams who are the right teams to bring in, world-class founders that haven't made anything in terms of cash. Every year we have a company who comes in who's already raised $10 million. So that's the aperture, right? Like it's pretty broad spread. The application's nosy, though. It's open now. It's like I mentioned, it's a series of questions on problem, solution, team traction, vision. It's a recording of your team. Part of what Tatiana mentioned is that we invest in people. Like our thesis from an investment standpoint is team, meaning like we want to know everyone. I'm going to spend a ton of time with you, and I want to make sure you're the right person to be investing in, and that we've got good working rapport in order to make it a happy marriage for all involved. So is it the right team? Do they have the right talent? Are the talents complementary amongst the team members? Do they work well together? Do they have good conflict resolution and communication skills? Like all of the things that you would sort of think go unspoken are things that we talk ad nauseum about before we even get into what are they doing. At that point, the next part of our sort of heuristic is the product, and does the product actually strategically align in interests associated with the things that our program is meant to solve. So our program from its genesis is all about impacting the healthcare system to make it work better for everyone, which is sort of a grandiose way to say what we're up to. But it's like, can we invest in technologies that improve quality of care or outcomes of care? Can we invest in things that increase access to care, address gaps in care, reduce cost of care, things that enhance the overall patient experience to make care suck less? That's what we are up to. So teams that are the right team, again, team, that are then building a product that's tackling one of those things in a substantive way, that have a vision for having a massive impact on the world. Companies that can check those boxes, regardless of how far along, are in our sweet spot. From a timing standpoint, our applications are open for 2 months. And we will close them. We'll close them in the middle of May. We'll make our decision to bring in a host of folks that would be, I guess, considered finalists. We don't actually use that language, but we put together a screening committee of 20 companies that are some of the most promising from that application pool. That happens in, Pete, correct me here, that's middle of June. I should know that before I say it.
June, yes.
June, middle of June. We'll make our decisions within a month. After that, that screening committee, the folks that are in attendance involve a variety of other managing directors from the Techstars universe, a host of investor connections that we have that are early stage health technology investors, but then the majority of the audience is actually executives from across UHG's lines of business. So we all get a chance to see product demo, meet team, hear pitch, ask questions, and then rank. At the end of that, by July, we will have picked 10 companies to participate. We invest in all the companies that join the program. we have a slightly different program in the sense that the expectation is that you're working on your business full time. And the program wants you to be working on your business full time and do the program full time. So it ends up being a very intensive, kind of exhaustive 14-week experience that's run September 1st through the beginning of December. It's based in Minneapolis. We offer it in a hybridized format to make sure everyone's safe during a COVID world. But our preference is for people that can be here in person for the vast majority of it, believing that there is a direct correlation between time spent in program and value derived from program for founders.
That's awesome. I'm going to pose another question for you, either you or Tatiana. What do you think are some of the most commonly asked questions that you get from people who are considering, or more for Tatiana, what do you wish you had known about the UHC Techstars program before you actually landed in Minneapolis and got started?
Well, the number one question I always get asked is the equity worth it, right? Because they do take a chunk. And I would 100% say it is, right? Because, and they, Techstars obviously makes it clear that when they're coming in as a founder in some ways. Like, they will be there for you, not just during the duration of the program, but afterwards and throughout forever. And the Techstars network is really immense. And, we're constantly having conversations with Matt and with all the mentors that we picked up at Techstars UHC, and they continue to grow and promote us and connect us to places, right? And during that 14-week experience, it does feel like you have another founder in the room who is in it. They've got skin in the game, right? Yeah, that's probably the number one question that I get. And I think that especially if you're going into a Techstars program with a goal in mind, right? And for us, again, it was the two goals of getting that education and that mentorship, but also getting access to this completely untapped stakeholder for us. That is 100% worth it. We wouldn't have anywhere near the level of stakeholder alignment without it.
Thanks, Tatiana. And to clarify for anybody who's curious, the terms are, you can find them on techstars.com/terms, I believe is the website. Or if you just Google Techstars terms, they're standard. We run programs in 160 countries. At this point, Techstars is the largest seed stage investor in the world. But for our accelerator programs, in exchange for the experience, we take 6% in common stock from participating companies. So 6% in common stock in exchange for this experience. As part of the experience, all companies get a check for $20K. Most companies spend it on room and board because they're not based here. I'd like to change that, as evident by why we're presenting with the Min Cup today. So we'd love to find local teams that don't need to spend $20K on room and board, and they can throw a party with that money or do whatever else. And then companies that come through also are eligible for a $100,000 convertible note. Note matches the latest valuation of the company and floats up to a $5 million cap. So if you've raised at a valuation higher than $5 million, that note is an optional thing that you can choose to take or not. And if you choose it, you would just incur a bit more dilution. We encourage companies to take the capital if they're going to run out of money during program, because the idea of running a business and participating in an accelerator and fundraising simultaneously is, it's a non-starter for us. So we've got the note there. That's just a way to ensure that companies have the run rate that they need, should they need it.
I will also add just one last thing to here is that Techstars is 100% a brand, and it's a brand and a sort of a stamp of approval that you can ride for a very long time and always be affiliated with. Once you're a Techstars company, it really gives you a whole hell of a lot of recognition in the space.
We'd say the same about the Minnesota Cup.
Thank you. Well, I could ask you other follow-up questions, Matt, or for anyone to chime in, but I'm curious, just noticing the time, if folks who are listening in have questions either for the programs, individual programs, or Tatiana. Unfortunately, Angie had to jump for a meeting, so our Min Cup alumni isn't around, but happy to take any questions you all have.
Tatiana, could you talk a little bit more about like the day-to-day or the programming of the Accelerator, what to expect in terms of the learnings? You said it was a fire hose, but could you highlight some of the takeaways from the 14 weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we were on site, which is amazing. I'm from Houston, so going up to Minnesota was a little bit cold for me, but you guys are used to it. It's fine. But the city itself is also shockingly industrial and entrepreneurial, which was a little bit of a surprise to me. And I'm sorry that it was a surprise, but it was, right? And the concentration of healthcare innovation, particularly in the insurance space, is just jaw-dropping. There's a lot of mentors outside of UHC that were part of the program that we got to connect with. I mean, just all sorts of folks, like everyone from SoulCycle to like food and pharma companies. It's a very wide mentorship network. And in terms of the actual programming, the first couple of weeks are probably what I would consider to be the most intense experience I've ever had in terms of learning how to communicate your company. Because, and I don't know how you did this, Pete and Matt, a little bit Pete, but you have 100 to 110 meetings with potential mentors. And it's like speed dating, where you pitch your company and they ask questions and you respond, and you try to figure out if there's a match. And you meet folks from all ranges of professions in life, everyone from branding and marketing and insurance and corporate strategy and everything, and see where you thought you needed help in the business versus very, very quickly realizing where you actually need help in the business. And they may not have been the same thing that you walked into that cohort thinking, right? And you get paired in sort of a dual opt-in sort of scenario with mentors that like you and love you, and you meet with them weekly, and they're really passionate about what you're doing. They're really striving to move you forward and address those gaps in your business that you've now discovered. So that's known as Mentor Madness. It's phenomenal. My voice cracked a number of times. I lost it for a day or two, but you really learn how to talk about things. And then the rest of the program is, now that you've got your mentors, go hit the ground running, right? Figure out what your goals are for the remaining 10 or 11 weeks and execute, because we want to see progress and traction for demo day, right? Like what are the things that you're going to talk about on demo day? What's the narrative? What's the storyline? And just go make it happen, right? And, I've seen companies that have come in with a great concept, but did not have a product and somehow managed to build a product in that time period, right? Or at least the bones of one, which is incredible and immense, right? But you have weekly mentorship and services and discounts that you otherwise would not have access to, or would be immensely capital intensive, or those mentors would want equity, but during that course of the program, they're just here to help you, right? And outside of sort of the execution after Mentor Madness, it's not quite as much programming, but you learn about things like, hey, how do you manage and create a brand? How do you create a financial model? What goes into it, right? What goes into appropriately tracking your KPIs, right? All these other components that are effectively taught to you, where you're given a library of tools to go and explore. Did I miss anything, Matt, Pete? Am I blacking out on whole segments of the program?
No, I think you nailed it from my perspective.
I think for the folks in the audience, both of these, these programs are kindred in a number of ways, but like conceptually, the idea that you have curated content and workshops to help you be successful as a founder, a litany of mentors that are world-class executives relevant to the space, either directly in that vertical or have adjacent skills that are, clear transferable values for you. There's some capital to help with the seed formation of your company. And then there's the stamp of approval that creates a wave that you can ride moving forward. I think for all of those reasons, they're incredibly worthy pursuits for any companies. And then the idea of whether or not you're a right fit, for me, and forgive me, I feel like I'm pontificating a little bit. For me, whether or not you're a right fit is whether or not you want it. Like if that's what the program offers, is that what you want? If mentorship is the primary value prop of Techstars and community, and that is true, right? Like it's not an if, those are true facts. So knowing that mentorship and this community are the unfair advantages that are provided to founders that participate, and then a stamp of approval and some capital and some open doors, etc. Like, does that give you goosebumps? Is it something that you feel like you could put to your advantage to help materially increase the value of your company? Like, could you get 3 years worth of work done in 3 months if you had access to all of those things? If that gets people excited, and for me, that is more of a mindset than any other type of variable that we find in an application. But if there's alignment with the mindset in terms of what the program actually is capable of delivering for founders and what founders are most hungry for, it's a great marriage. It ends up being really mutually beneficial and a lovely experience.
Well, that was a lovely question, Pete, and thank you, Tatiana and Matt, for what you shared. Maybe I'll take a quick second to share a couple last comments about Minnesota Cup, or just reemphasize a few things, and then I'll give you all the same opportunity, Matt and Pete. But our applications are open until April 16th. And we do have a bunch of other info sessions and support sessions available. At least 2 or 3 times a week, we have different opportunities to either get support or connect with myself or Jamie Bartlett at Minnesota Cup directly. So please check out our registration page. I'll put the link in the chat if you want to sign up for anything else or get more access to us. And just a reminder that it is free. We really are here to increase access and sort of the equity of founders entering this space, and folks who have opportunity to grow businesses in Minnesota. And yeah, we're excited to meet you and can't wait to see all those applications roll in. And thank you all for the time.
Cool. Thanks, Jess. Parting thoughts from us. I think there's value in the application process just as a discipline in and of itself, even if the program isn't necessarily a good fit. I would say from Techstars as a whole that the average number of applications per company is greater than 1, meaning that most people apply multiple years before they're accepted. And so acceptance in and of a year is not the only metric of interest. There's actual value derived from the journey itself. Our applications are open until May 12th. Prior to then, we'll host a few AMAs with the team at UHC that we run this program in partnership with. And so if anyone is curious and wants to continue the conversation, that's probably the next pass for you. You can find details about those on our website. I don't know what our website is. Techstars.com/accelerator/UnitedHealthcare, something like that. You can find us pretty easily. But it's been a privilege to share the time with the folks on the call and also the people viewing the recording, and we'll look forward to being in touch.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for your time. And yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us if you are interested.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good day, everybody.
Have a lovely day.